Shalom. When it started off source by giving no praise to Yahweh, but Hashem Yahushua, but Hashem Kakodash, double honors the apostle of great millstone, and honors to you brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name, of whom the world ignorantly calls God Jehovah or Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh, and the Son's true name is Yahweh Shai. And when we pray Yahweh Ba Hashem Yahushua, Ba meaning in, Ha meaning done, Shah meaning names, Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai. I was, just listening to, the apostles bringing up, the whole situations, different situations with IUIC. One of them, being that they pushed this whole idea of monogamy, right? And the spirit had me remember that whenever I've kind of looked at the whole, or rather heard debates about, polygamy, right? A lot of the defenses have been, basically the defense of women, right? And then I was like, right, that's actually quite a feminist type of mentality, right? So then I looked up, what's so bad about polygamy, right? So I found, loads of different articles. They're all quite long. So I'll, just cherry pick some of the different things that I found. I may not read all of them. And we'll just kind of go through it, right? Because, anyone who's against, polygamy, ultimately you're a feminist, right? That's really what you are. You're a feminist, right? In fact, the scripture says this, right? This is Isaiah 3:12, is it? Right? It says, as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. Right? O my people, they which lead thee, cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. Right? Because you've got that term pussy whipped, right? And that's ultimately what you're observing. For a so-called man to come out and straight up say, I only want one wife. And more so a man in his truth, because there is the understanding that in this world you get taught, you find the one, you marry the one, right? Whereas ultimately in Israelite culture, right, you have the many, right? So once again, when you consider the statement that was just made, in this world, right, you are taught about the one. But what does this word uphold? Feminism. It upholds Esau's way of life, and Esau's way of life is death, right? Esau's way of life is, cutting down the population, right? Contrary to what the Most High said, because the Most High said this in Genesis, right? Genesis 1:28 says the Most High blessed them, and the powers blessed them, right? Because when you read Genesis, you see that word there, God. It's really Elohim in the Hebrew, right, which means powers, right? So you have, which when you go into that, Yahweh and the angels, right? It says, and the power said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, right? And have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing, right, that moveth upon the earth. So that's what the Lord has commanded, because the Lord he's a God of the living, right? He wants there to be a multitude of Israelites, all right? In fact, we even have a tribe, right, called Ephraim, which Ephraim means fruitful, right? Basically saying that they're gonna have a lot of children. Right, so Isaiah 3:12 says, for my people, children are the oppressors, and women rule over them. Right, you can link that up also with Jeremiah 31:22. It says, how long will that go by, O thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord Yahweh hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. Right, so a woman is given greater authority, greater power over men. Right, and when we read these articles, like I said, I'm just going to skip through them because they are quite lengthy. And ultimately, we know, according to the scriptures, that they're all bullshit, right? So this is from Political Magazine, one from Political Magazine, one from a website called Quillette, QUILLETTE.com, called Why Not Polygamy, one from Slate.com, The Problem with Polygamy, and one from BMC Pregnancy Childbirth. www.biomedcentral.com, right? So why polygamy is bad for national security, right? So this Valerie Hudson, right, has not just said polygamy is not good, I don't like it, right? She has said it is bad for national security, right? And I think it's in one of these, I forget which one had the bullet points. This one had the bullet points, actually. You just jump to it, right? It says, where is it? Sluck. It says, in in polygynous, right? Which this is, as I just found out, the one which is polygamy, but specifically for men, right? Unmarried, low status men with little to lose may gang up and engage in risky, status elevating, sex seeking, and illegal behavior, rowdiness, substance abuse, theft, assault, murder, rape, kidnapping, especially of females, right? Sexual slavery and prostitution. Some may become marauders who go on raids to steal wealth and wives while raping and pillaging. Right, some observers think that polygyny explains the rise of Boko Haram and its kidnapping of young Nigerian girls. All right. So yeah, that's basically what they've come out and said. So there's an all in all, out and out assault on the scriptures and everything that the scriptures, stand for. This is so this is back to the political. It says in the perhaps unlikely polygamy debate that's emerged in the wake of the Supreme Court decision to legalize that, right? It's been widely acknowledged that polygamy, or more technically polygyny, the marriage by one man to multiple wives, is bad for women and children, right? And this is it, the way Esau talks, right? Esau talks of that, it's widely acknowledged, right? This is exactly, the way, to think, right? This here is brainwashing, right? This isn't just like, this is the facts. This is what this is. No, I'm going to put my emphasis on it, right? Because then when you hear the word widely acknowledged and then you believe in polygamy, guess what? You're going to think, oh shit, I'm in the minority, right? And Esau knows people don't like being in the minority. That's what it says in Psalms, the 64th chapter, which got something you speak on a lot, right? Psalm 64 and 6, they search out iniquity, they accomplish a diligent search, right? But both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep, right? And whenever this type of topic comes up, I speak about it a lot, just because Esau mastered psychology. He mastered mastered basically man's understanding, right? He's mastered it so that he can then manipulate it, right? So it says, historically, polygyny has been very common. More than 70% of society studied by anthropologists have allowed men to marry more than one wife. In 2013, the practice was re-legalized in Libya, and it's on the agenda for re-legalization in Tunisia. And then, right, so then it says, and it's on the agenda for possible re-legalization. It says post-Soviet nations such as Kyrgyzstan, where polygyny has become a status symbol, are openly moving in the same direction. Legalization attempts failed in 2010 when female lawmakers demanded that if polygyny were made legal, that polyandry, which would allow a woman to take multiple husbands, should also be allowed. And is that not what we have in the Western world? In the Western world, you have a load of men that just go around fucking, right? And you have a load of women that just go around fucking. This exactly is the society that we're living in, right? Because that's the main reason they got a problem with it, right? It's like, let me rephrase that, right? When we speak about the whole thing about polygyny, they want women to also be able to, spread their legs in the same fashion, right? And be able to, have sex with Tom, Dick, and Harry and Harriet, which is what you're seeing in the Western world, right? But this model here that we're seeing, which is a righteous model, because a woman's only supposed to know one man in her life, right? Anything else is an abomination, right? So it says, so reading, yeah, so that's it. They want to be able to do the same thing men do, right? But when you look into our law, for instance, Yahushua, basically he was like, look, man, Moses, allowed you for the hardness of your hearts to have a divorce, right? However, in the beginning, it was never so, right? Because when she divorces, guess what? She goes out, right, and gets popped, right, and then it's basically forced to commit adultery, right? This is Jeremiah 3:1. They say, if a man put away his wife and she go from him and become another man's, shall he return unto her again? Shall not that land be greatly polluted, right? So this is her going from one guy to another guy back to the first guy, right? It's actually not the one I wanted. It's not the one I wanted. Slovakia. But yeah, and when I was preparing the lesson, I read that bit. But hey, it is what it is. But yeah, you can read the law, man. These IUIC guys like to talk about the law, right? So yeah, going on, and you see, and then May 17-year-old Louisa, which she's been past the flower of her age, because that is the definition of when, according to law, of when a woman was able to start basically dealing, right? It says 1 Corinthians 7:36. But if any man think that he behaveth himself uncomely toward his virgin, if she pass the flower of her age, and needs so require, let him do what he will, he sinneth not, right? And then flower of her age, you look up. This is Leviticus 15:20. 20. Ooh, let me just. And 19, right, and I'll jump down. Leviticus 15:19, and if a woman have an issue, and the issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the evening. So once again, we asked these, even this, Esau complains about the fact that, in our culture, if a woman is on a moon, she's supposed to be put away. Even Esau complains about that. Right, but I just read that to show exactly what it is that we're talking about. Leviticus 15:24 says, and if any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed whereon he lieth shall be unclean. Right, so this is, we know what we're talking about here. Right, so basically, if she's flowered, if she's now having a period, right, then hey, you can deal. Right, so going back, that's to say that none of those like Chief Justice Roberts, who see the practice as merely the extension of increasing liberal sexual morals and loose definitions of marriage. Before we shrug off, blah, blah, blah. So it says, at the level of human security, let's be clear, polygyny is the cause, not the consequence of a vast array of negative outcomes for what? For women, right, and their children. Right, which once again, when you follow the law as written in the scriptures, right, there are certain ways that you are supposed to take care of your woman, right? There are certain that you ain't supposed to just go out and just beating your woman for no good reasons, right? Now that said, right? Hey, every now and then, hey, we've all been there. You look at your woman. Obviously, in this society, you can't. But you look at your woman. She says some, she does some outlandish shit. Then a response is required. Okay. So we go on. It says these young brides in turn have high fertility rates. Right now, we want to remember this, right? And thus bear children when they are younger. Right, it says as a result, maternal mortality rates are 5 times higher in society, where the highest rates of polygyny compared. So with the highest rates of polygyny compared to those with the lowest rates. So when you actually hear that, you're like, oh my god, it's so terrible, right? But then when you actually realize what is happening here, and in fact all of the different articles that we're reading, right, you have a lot of what is called conflation happening, right? Let me just pull that up on screen, move to another window, right? it says conflate, right? Combine two or more sets of information, text, ideas, etc. into one, right? Because what they've basically done, right, is they've not like separated the different reasons. They've not separated the different countries, especially I'm trying to remember which tab it was on. I think it may have this one. Okay, maybe this one. It's like I'm just trying to find it. No, it was there. So what's going on? Right? So then we come down as such cultures show rates of sex trafficking and domestic violence towards women that are twice as high as rates in low polygyny societies, while the risk of female genital mutilation in highly polygynous societies increases 100-fold, right? Because there are only a few places in the world that practice that shit, right? Because and that's exactly what it is. That's that weird Hermetic shit, right? But then you then basically say that, and it's like, oh yeah, that society was also polygynous, right? There's also a term which is causation. Correlation is not causation, right? So then do the same here. All right. So the phrase correlation does not imply causation refers to the inability to legitimately deduce a cause and effect relationship between two events or variables solely on the basis of an observed association or correlation between them. Right. So you see this here. This is a perfect example, right? Of correlation is not causation, right? Ice cream sales versus shark attacks, right? Now you could write a whole paper, right, about ice cream sales and shark attacks, right? But then guess what? Sharks are, in hot countries, right? Rather, I'm thinking of Australia. That was a dumb statement, Salaki Akim, right? But if you're thinking about when you would go out and have ice cream, will be in the summer. If you're in a place like Australia, which has a lot of different sharks and whatever, what have you, right? Then you're going to be like, oh well, you see, that's proof, but it's really not. Okay. And yeah, that's it on that one. It says, but if a woman's safety and health isn't reason enough to oppose polygyny, we're looking at you, Vladimir Putin, right? And that's it. And this is the point, right? Really, what you're saying is you're saying that this your main actual hatred against it, which Valerie and Rose, you can you know get what I'm saying. And then it goes on to speak a whole bunch of shit about how, fuck it, let me just read it real quick. Let's do some polygamy math to see how this works. When each man in society is wed to multiple women, this produces an imbalanced sex ratio in the marriage market. If each man takes more than one wife, it leaves other men, most likely poor men, without any wives. As a result, approximately half the boys in polygynous cultures need to be ejected from their primary community at puberty in order to sustain this imbalance, whereby a few, usually older, wealthy, and more powerful men claim a disproportionate share of women for themselves. But remember what we just read. Remember what we just read. And thus bear more children. You see that there? So on one hand, they're having more children, so that means you're gonna have more women. That means there's gonna be more around, right? You're also gonna have more men, but everything is just gonna be balanced out, right? Now, continued on for long enough. So I think you know, uh, you can I've basically said what needs to be said here. You can read these articles, otherwise I'm just going to be reading at you for ages and ages on end. I'll link them into the description, right? Lords will remember, right? But when you read into this, right, polygyny says this is arguments and support, and then which could effects on women, less freedom, right? Because that's what they want. It's all feminism, right? So first couple of precepts, it says, Psalms 50:19, thou givest thy mouth to evil and thy tongue frameth deceit. Right? When you read these different articles, what you're actually just observing is a lot of deceit, a lot of double speak, and a lot of conflation, right? A lot of mixing of different things into one, and a lot of correlation not being causation, right? And a lot of devilry ultimately. Right? And to double up on that, so Psalms 10:7, his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud, and his tongue is mischief and vanity. And then going into the fact that you can have multiple wives is Exodus 21:10. If you take him another wife, close the book. This is in the law, right? Close the book. Right? If you take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish, right? So this is it. When a man has multiple wives, the law, our customs, how we deal with women is much better than Esau's customs. Because Esau's custom teaches us to be whores and harlots, where they basically get used up, right? No one wants them, where they end up childless and alone, right, with a cat. Okay? Nothing wrong with cats, but you get the point. Right, First Kings 11:1. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites. Right, of the nations concerning which the Lord Yahweh said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in to you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love, and this is where King Solomon went off, because he clave to them in love, right, and then they I'm trying to see Nehemiah. Yes, this is Nehemiah 13 and 26. Did not Solomon king of Israel sin by these? Yet among many nations there was no king like him, who was beloved of the Most High, and the Most High made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. Right? So King Solomon sinned because he started following after the gods of these heathen women. Not that he was dealing with these heathen women, right? It says, and he had 700 wives, princes, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart, right? And that's where King Solomon went off, right? So he had 1,000 women, right? And all of them were wicked when you read the precepts. So it's Isaiah 60:22. So how can we do this with one wife? Right, it says a little one shall become 1,000, a small one a strong nation. Yahweh will hasten it in his time. So the Lord is actually, sanctioning us to have multiple wives, because you ain't gonna do this with one woman, right? It ain't gonna happen, right? And yeah, that's it. Went on a little bit longer, but that's why I even said at the top, I don't think I'm gonna get through all of these different articles. But Lord's will remember to put the links, and if you want to go more into it. But as you see there, man, the main arguments against, when you really get to the bottom of it, against polygyny, right? Because polyandry's off according to the scriptures, which is proof that King Solomon didn't lay with the Queen of Sheba, right? Because she was polyamorous, right? So, when you get to the bottom of it, it's just all ultimately feminism, right? And all, workings of the devil. So, as always, that was edifying. Till next time we say, Shalom.